1. Did you know peasants worked the land, but never owned a single inch of it? In medieval times, most people were peasants, but not just any peasants. Many were serfs, legally bound to a lord's land. That meant they couldn't leave, couldn't sell the land, and certainly couldn't own it. In exchange for a place to live and farm, they had to give a big chunk of their crops and labor to the landowner. It was hard work with little reward. Even if they wanted to leave, they needed permission. The land belonged to the Lord, and so in many ways did they. So, next time you grumble about rent, imagine paying it in grain while sleeping next to your goat. Follow for more hidden truths about medieval life. How did a king control an entire kingdom without ever leaving his castle? Medieval kings rarely traveled, and they didn't need to. They relied on a pyramid of loyalty called feudalism. The king granted land to powerful nobles, who then swore loyalty and supplied knights and taxes. Those nobles passed land to knights, who ruled peasants. So instead of managing every village directly, the king sat at the top while everyone below handled the dirty work, from collecting grain to sending troops. It's like managing a company without ever seeing your employees. Subscribe for more clever and kinda lazy medieval life hacks. Medieval society ran on one thing: land loyalty. Feudalism wasn't just a system, it was survival. The king owned everything and gave chunks of land to nobles in exchange for loyalty and service. Those nobles split it among vassals, like knights, who protected the land and trained for war. Peasants worked the soil, supported the entire structure, and rarely saw any reward beyond survival. It was a web of favors, all rooted in land. So, in the Middle Ages, loyalty wasn't bought with gold, it was leased by the acre. Stick around to learn how it all held together. You think your landlord is bad? Medieval ones owned your life. In medieval villages, the lord wasn't just a rent collector. He was your ruler, judge, taxman, and sometimes even your priest. He owned the land, the mill, the oven, and the blacksmith. Peasants paid to use everything. And if you got on his bad side, he could evict you or punish you. There was no housing court, just the lords. So next time you deal with a noisy neighbor, imagine needing permission just to move to another village. Follow to uncover more harsh truths of medieval life. Could a poor peasant become a noble knight? The short answer? Rarely, but not impossible. Knights were usually born into noble families, trained from childhood, and had the wealth for horses, armor, and weapons. But in special cases, a peasant could rise through bravery in battle or gain favor with a lord. A few historical knights came from humble origins, but for most peasants, knighthood was just a dream told around the fire. Chances were slim, but not zero. Want to know more about upward mobility in the Middle Ages? Stick around. What did noble kids learn in place of math and reading? Swordplay. Noble boys didn't go to school like modern kids. Instead, they were sent to another noble's home to serve as a page around age 7. They learned how to ride horses, use a sword, recite poetry, and serve at banquets. By age 14, they became squires, training under real knights in combat. It was hands-on, and sometimes dangerous. Education wasn't about books. It was about battle. The church ran everything. The church didn't just preach it. In medieval Europe, the Catholic Church controlled land, wealth, and people's beliefs. It owned more property than any noble. The Pope could crown or remove kings. Priests were the only literate people in most villages. And the church collected taxes, called tithes, from everyone. Want to marry, confess, or be buried? You needed the church. It was government, school, and spiritual guide, all in one. More powerful than the crown, the church shaped medieval life. Follow to learn how it ruled both hearts and kingdoms. Who was more powerful, the king or the pope? It might surprise you, but popes often had more authority than kings. They could excommunicate rulers, cutting them off from salvation and support. Monarchs needed the church's blessing to rule.
Some kings die Vizepope entlost Everything.
The Pope could call crusades, collect taxes, and influence laws. In some cases, the Pope acted like a king, just one with divine power, in a fight between crown and cross.
The church often won.
Follow for more surprising power struggles from medieval times. Think priests just led prayer?
Think again.
Clergy in the Middle Ages were more than religious leaders. They were advisors to kings, record keepers, educators, and sometimes even diplomats. Bishops controlled huge estates and had armies. Monks preserved history by copying books. And village priests? They controlled marriages, births, and funerals, the whole rhythm of life. In many ways, the church was the backbone of society. So the next time you picture a humble priest, remember he might have been richer than a knight. Follow for more about medieval power behind the altar.
Knights didn't just fight, they had a code.
The code of chivalry wasn't just about swords and glory. It was about honor, protecting the weak, loyalty to one's lord, and respect for noblewomen. Knights swore oaths before becoming fully armored warriors. But reality didn't always match the code. Some knights were ruthless, and many used chivalry as an excuse for status. Still, the ideal shaped literature, culture, and how we remember the Middle Ages today. Behind the armor was a code, and sometimes a contradiction. Stick around for more on the real life of knights.